The closer you become to someone, the clearer their flags become. And some people know that. That's why distance and confusion can become the keys to their getaway car. Because clarity would catch them running the red light. They keep you far enough away that you cannot see the full pattern, but close enough so that you can feel the impact. By the end of this video, you'll know how to identify the flags that may have already been waving in your face, how to interpret an unclear, a yellow, an orange, and red flag, and what each color requires you to do. And then I will show you briefly how to use my free download, the Flag Clarity Check. It helps you take one confusing situation out of your head, put the evidence in front of you, and determine your next move. Okay, so let's get into it because no one is here to help you. Okay, so now we're going to get into some of the colors and what they might be meaning. Okay. How do you know when a flag is red? A flag is red when the evidence tells you that the continued access creates serious harm or danger. That's it. Some behavior is red immediately. Violence does not need to happen twice. Coercion does not need to become a pattern. A consent violation does not require another conversation so you can make sure. A credible threat to your safety does not need a waiting period. Some things are red for the first time because the severity of the behavior establishes the danger. Other flags become red over time. The agreement keeps being broken. The lie becomes a system. The apology becomes part of the cycle. The behavior escalates. The impact becomes more serious. This is when the color deepens. So, red asks, what do I need to protect myself? That's the only thing a red flag should answer. What do I need to protect myself? That may mean creating distance, documenting what happened, seeking support, reporting the behavior, calling a qualified professional, making a safe exit plan. Red is not asking you to explain yourself better to the danger. Red is not asking you to find the perfect words that will make someone react or respect your consent. Red is not asking you to understand their pain so deeply that you volunteer to remain inside its impact. Red is asking you to protect yourself clearly. Like this video if you understood that. Some behavior does not need more communication, it needs less access. Okay, so we're clear on that. Moving on. But what happens before red? This is where the real discernment begins because not every concern arrives fully developed. Some flags are still gathering information. They are developing. And your responsibility changes as the evidence changes. So let's start with an unclear flag, something you're not clear about. Unclear is the point where we ask. An unclear flag means something happened, something in you reacted, but important information is missing. You notice the tone, the distance, the awkward response, the shift in energy, the detail that did not make sense. But you don't know yet what it means. So you ask, where were you last night? When I said no, you said blank, blank, blank. What did you mean by that? You told me this would be handled. What changed? What happens the next time you get angry or jealous or curious? These unclear moments need clarity. The problem is some of us hate not knowing. So when information is missing, imagination fills the space. They did not respond because they do not care. They need space because they are punishing me. They asked me that question because they're jealous. Maybe. But what do you actually know? What happened? What did you feel and what did you assume? And more importantly, what has been confirmed? Unclear means stop letting your emotions answer questions you have not asked. Your response is ask directly. Translate what you felt. Clarify what happened. Do not interrogate. Do not accuse. Do not silently build a case and then punish them for the conclusion you reach without them. Ask. That's it. Now, unclear does not mean unimportant. It means your next responsibility is information. And the response to your question may clarify the moment or reveal the color of the flag. Because sometimes the question reveals a misunderstanding. And sometimes the way they avoid the question becomes the next flag. Which brings us to yellow. Yellow is where we don't ask nothing. We observe. Yellow means there is enough information to pay attention, but not enough evidence for a final conclusion. Something happened. You asked. Maybe the answer didn't fully make sense. Maybe it really didn't fully settle with you. Maybe the behavior was concerning, but it only happened once. Maybe they became defensive, but later returned and took accountability. Yellow does not mean nothing is wrong. Yellow says it's time to slow it down. Do not keep moving at the same speed. This is the flag people speed through, the yellow flag, because slowing down may delay the relationship, the opportunity, the friendship, the connection, the fantasy, the future you already began to create in your mind. So instead of observing the yellow flag, you rush through it before the light changes. You become more invested because you are afraid that slowing down will make you lose what you wanted. But yellow is not permission to accelerate towards the outcome. Yellow is asking you to see whether the outcome is actually safe to approach. This is why we miss it, right? It feels red at first, but it's not really. So we ignore it. But at yellow, you watch. Does the behavior repeat? How do they respond when it is addressed? Do their actions begin matching their explanation? Do they repair the impact? Does the concern improve, remain, or escalate? Observing does not mean obsessing. You do not need to monitor every word, check every phone, or interpret every facial expression. That's not what yellow means. You need to remain aware. Awareness. Yellow brings awareness. So that means stop explaining the evidence before it has a chance to speak. Stop adding intimacy faster than trust is being built. The intensity may prove that you missed each other, but it doesn't prove that the problem was solved. Yellow means slow down and observe. Because a yellow flag can be corrected. A person can receive feedback and then take accountability, repair the impact, create a new consistent behavior. But yellow can also deepen, especially when the concern returns. And when it does, we move to orange. So, the orange flag. Now it's time for you to decide. And this is the hardest part of seeing flags. Orange means you already observed it. You already asked about it. You already gave it context. You may have already established an agreement or boundary, and the concern returned. Orange means the behavior has repeated, it has escalated, or this continues to be addressed. At this stage, observation alone is no longer enough. Orange is asking, what are you going to do now? This is where people pretend they are still confused. But some of you are not confused anymore. You are delaying a decision. You already know the agreement keeps getting broken. You already know the apology only creates temporary improvement. You already know the explanation changes, but the impact remains the same. You already know you're the only one carrying the responsibility for repair. You keep observing because observation does not cost you a relationship. A decision might. Orange means you need to state the requirement, establish or enforce the boundary, define what change must actually look like, set the consequence, and then choose the decision. That is what I mean. You need to state the requirement. An orange flag is no longer the time for vague requests or hoping they understand what you need. Clearly state what must happen for the relationship, agreement, or situation to continue in a healthy way. Okay, now it's time to establish or enforce the boundary. A requirement explains what needs to change, but a boundary explains what you will do if it does not. At the orange level, the boundary must move from something you mentioned to something you're prepared to enforce. Because a boundary without a response is just information you keep giving someone who already has shown you what they plan to do with it. Now we define what change must actually look like. Promises, apologies, and good intentions are not enough when the impact keeps repeating. Define the specific behaviors, actions or consistency you need to see so you can recognize real change instead of accepting another explanation. You set the consequence. This might be my favorite one. Consequence is not a punishment, it's not a threat. It is the outcome that follows when the boundary is ignored. It should be realistic, connected to the behavior and something you're genuinely willing to follow through on. So it has to be realistic. Maybe I'm gonna leave you is not as strong when you said it 8 times. Now we get to the hardest part. Choose the decision. Orange flags require you to stop collecting the same evidence without making a move. Decide whether you will continue under new conditions, create distance, pause the relationship, or leave based on what has already been shown. The key distinction is yellow asks for clarity. Orange asks for decision structure. Orange asks whether you will act in alignment with what you claim matters to you. When behavior repeats, it does not keep returning as a new incident. It is bringing the previous evidence with it. That is how orange begins creating the red shade. So this is how the colors develop. I'm gonna just make this real simple. Unclear says, I noticed something, but I need more information, so I'll ask. Yellow says, I have enough information to pay attention, but not enough evidence for a final conclusion, so I'll slow it down and observe. Orange says the concern has repeated, escalated, or continued after being addressed, so I'll decide and enforce. Red says harm, danger, or a serious violation has been established, so I will protect myself. Unclear, yellow, and orange are not meaningless because they are not red. They are developing information. The color deepens through repetition, escalation, impact, avoidance, defensiveness, broken agreements, and a lack of consistent repair. The flag does not turn red simply because you became more emotional. The flag changes because the evidence changed, not your emotions. And some of you are using the wrong response for the wrong colors. You are interrogating unclear situations, speeding through the yellow ones, observing orange patterns, and negotiating with the red behaviors. You give more consequence to confusion, and then give more questions to danger. You demand immediate certainty when the evidence is incomplete, then keep collecting information after the pattern has already answered you. That is why knowing there is a flag is not enough. You need to know what the color requires. You understood that? Do you get that? I hope you guys are getting that. Okay, so let's talk about the free flags clarity check that I developed and for some of my clients who talk a lot about red flags and they should have known the signs and they should have saw it. Now, this sounds simple when we are discussing somebody else. It gets more difficult when it's your relationship, your family, your job, your opportunity, or even your own behavior. Because emotion will try to choose the easiest color. That is exactly why I created the free What Color Is This Flag? Flags Clarity Check. You bring one real situation, not the easiest one. The situation you keep replaying because you still don't know what it means. The worksheet helps you separate what happened from what you assumed. It helps you identify what you felt, and it also helps you examine how the behavior was addressed, how to check it, whether the evidence supports unclear, yellow, orange, or red flags. Then it helps you choose the response, depending on what color you're seeing. Do I ask? Do I observe? Is this the moment for a decision? Or should I protect myself? You can download it free at noonesaidthat.com. On YouTube, use the link in the description or in the pinned comment. On TikTok and Instagram, use the link in my bio. This video helps you understand the colors. The worksheet helps you apply them to your situation. And if you complete it, but you're still stuck between the colors, or maybe you know the colors but cannot really make a decision, you can book a private flags clarity session through the same website, noonesaidthat.com. Because the worksheet can organize the evidence. Coaching helps you face what the evidence may require. So, what if it wasn't a red flag? Maybe it was unclear and needed a question. Maybe it was yellow and needed you to slow down. Maybe it was orange and needed you to decide. Or maybe it was red and you kept searching for another explanation. The flag may have been waving the entire time, it just was not the color you were expecting. It just was not always the color everyone taught you to look for. Tell me in the comments which color you're currently dealing with. You don't need to explain the whole situation if it touches too deeply. You can write unclear, yellow, orange, or red, or you can go into detail. That's nice. If you learned one thing, like this video. If you learned two things, subscribe and share with someone who keeps treating every flag the same. Because clearly, no one said something today in this video. Remember, if you're only looking for red flags, you will miss every color that led up to that moment. See you soon.